Well, in every economy, there is a critical role of public policy and research. And that is the role of the Kenya Institute of Public Policy and Research Analysis here in Kenya. And joining us this week is Dr. Elda Onsomu, Executive Director at KIPRA. She's going to help us understand what is the role of KIPRA in Kenya's socio-economic development. Thank you very much indeed, Madam CEO or Executive Director, for joining us here on Inside Government. You know, since 1997, when the KIPRA Act came into force, what have you been doing as an agency?
The Kenya Institute for Public Policy Research and Analysis is a think tank under the State Department for Economic Planning, which is under the National Treasury. The Kenya Institute for Public Policy Research and Analysis, since when it was established in 1997, has been engaged in various activities which are aimed at supporting the government, both the national and the county governments, in both the medium-term and the long-term planning of our economy. Mm-hmm. This is done through undertaking objective public policy research and analysis, and also institutional capacity building. At the same time, as an institute, we have been able to interact with various organizations, both public, private, and non-state actors, in undertaking objective research, which is aimed at informing the national development agenda of the country. Mm-hmm. The Institute also considers the various frameworks that the government has committed to, including the Sustainable Development Goals, mm-hmm. the Agenda 2063 for the African Union. We also take into account the East African community provisions in terms of how we have to develop not only as a country but also as a region. When doing this, we also undertake institutional capacity building, both for the national government, the county governments, mm-hmm. and other non-state actors, including the private sector.
Mm-hmm. I believe in your existence, which is almost 30 years, you have generated enough public policy and research documents that are supposed to guide Kenya's development path. Are they followed to the letter?
Yes. Every economy every 5 years develops a plan. Mm-hmm. And for our economy since independence, we have developed both medium-term and long-term plans. Mm-hmm. At the moment, we have the Kenya Vision 2030, which is the long-term plan, implemented through the medium-term plans, and we are currently implementing the medium-term plan, which is going to usher us to the next period before we conclude the Vision 2030. Mm-hmm. These plans are also used to inform the counties in terms of developing the county integrated development plans. Since devolution in 2010, we have had various counties produce their county integrated development plans. Mm-hmm. So all these plans, both at the national and county levels, have been used to guide the investments, not only at the national level, but also at the county levels, and targeted for various sectors of the economy. And that's why in the Vision 2030, we have the various pillars that we are targeting at, starting from the socio-economic pillar, political pillar, and also we have the enablers. In addition to the economic pillar, these enablers relate to infrastructure, for instance, human capital development. All these are fundamental for sustainable development. Mm-hmm. Yes, I confirm that as a nation, these plans have helped us as a country to move from where we were many years back to where we are. Mm-hmm. And as a nation, and as you are aware, we have moved to a middle-income economy.
A lower middle-income economy.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
and we are targeted to move to a first world economy, given that we are investing a lot in various pillars that are critical for the economy to move from where we are to an economy that has high levels of standards of living, access to amenities, access to water, access to education, access to health, access to infrastructure. And as you might be aware, Kenya is one of the nations in this region which is having high penetration in terms of ICT, and digital economy is an area where we really need to invest in, because it has helped the economy to not only expand but open up other parts that were left behind previously.
I mean, the role of Kenya Institute of Public Policy and Research is to develop policies and concepts which are then forwarded to policy makers and policy implementers to work with. You don't implement yourself, you just develop policies. How do you ensure that the policies that you develop are implemented, and not only are they implemented, they are implemented accordingly?
As an institute, we work with the national and county governments through technical working groups and task forces. It is through these frameworks that we are able to translate our research to policies, to interventions that are implemented. We also have frameworks for monitoring the policies and interventions when they are being implemented. Further, with the frameworks that we already have and our capacity building initiatives, we are able to support the government, both the national and county governments, in monitoring the implementation, ensuring that the policies are implemented, in generating evidence, because without evidence and without indicators, you cannot measure the impact. And it is through those frameworks that we are able to support the implementation of the policies that we come up with, and also other policies, other interventions that are proposed by other researchers, not only in Kenya, but also in the region and globally, that are relevant to the development of our nation.
Let's first of all talk about one of the best known long-term socioeconomic blueprint, and that is Vision 2030. And I know that when this document was being prepared back in the year 2008, 2007, there was a lot of consultation between the national government and KIPRA, among other experts. And KIPRA was a major cog in the development of Vision 2030. When you look at this document, which is almost coming to a close in about 4 years' time, are you satisfied that we have followed the aspirations of Vision 2030 to the letter?
Yes, as a nation, we have followed. And this has been made possible through the medium-term plans that have been implementing the Vision 2030 since 2008. Taking into account the various pillars and enablers, starting from the socio-economic pillar, we can confirm that there has been major expansion in sectors like education, health, social protection, analysis of population dynamics, access to jobs, and also creation of jobs in new and emerging sectors. An example is the digital sector, where we are able to have jobs created not only in the traditional sectors, but also in the emerging sectors. Going to the political pillar, Kenya is one of the countries where democracy has developed, deepened, and expanded. It's an economy where we already have frameworks as per the Constitution of Kenya that gives everyone a voice, and the aim is to leave no one behind. Going to the economic pillar, looking at the expansion in sectors like infrastructure, access to roads, access to digital infrastructure, access to air transport, water transport, among others. That means that with this blueprint, a lot has been done, and even as we move towards the 2030 targets, there are areas that will need to be tackled to ensure that no region and no one is left behind. This is important, particularly in areas where we have high levels of people or regions where access to basic amenities might not be adequate, and this is where we need to focus on even as we move towards the 2030 targets. Another related provision there is the Sustainable Development Goals, which is also targeted for 2030, and these have been taken into account, particularly in the monitoring and evaluation frameworks used by the government and also with support from other stakeholders.
Well, if you just joined us, you're watching Inside Government, and this week we're looking at the role of public policy and research, and we're talking to the Executive Director of the Kenya Institute for Public Policy and Research Analysis, and this is Dr. Elda Onsomu. She's giving us a breakdown of what they are doing to help the government as well as county governments in the development of policies as well as research. I mean, the whole spectrum of developing a policy and, of course, going through the system of research is a complicated and, you know, a highly scholarly kind of a process. Give us the processes that you go through in developing a policy.
The process is robust. First, we start with the identification of the policy problem. After the problem is identified, we map the stakeholders because, as per the Constitution, that has to be participatory, and all the stakeholders in that space need to be involved. For us as an institute, we do this through stakeholder engagements, having policy seminars, having workshops where we identify the policy issue, then we move further to develop the concept. This is important because the concept helps us to define the scope and the approaches that we are going to use, which can be qualitative, or quantitative, or both. After that, then we are able to collect data, and this is the level where evidence is generated. Because for you to have a policy that can impact on the economy, then you need to ensure that it is supported by data, and data of high quality. This is a point where we engage with various institutions like the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics and the state departments for that respective issue. After that is done, then we go further to do the analysis, and as an institute, we have developed various economic modeling tools. These tools include the Kipra Treasury macro model. We have the CGE model, which looks at the entire economy. And in this computable general equilibrium model, you are able to simulate the impact of various interventions that the economy could be putting in place and their implications, for instance, on productivity, implications on competitiveness, and even on job creation. After that, then, we are also able to identify gaps and areas where we need more tools to be developed. For instance, as we move into the next century, it is clear that digital space has changed. The workspaces have changed. So you need new tools like future foresight, which have to help you run scenarios on what will happen in the future 10, 20 years from now. That tool is very important because then you are able to guide government and individuals on what you need to invest in presently to have implications in the future. After that analysis, then now we are able to move into report writing, After report writing, we summarize this work into policy briefs that can be consumed by various audience. And that's how then we are able to come to the media to disseminate some of this information and share the same to institutions that are designing programs and projects. And as I said earlier, we are able to work with all the various arms of government and also all the sectors, and that's how we are able to pass our knowledge and evidence to policies.
That's quite a robust and a very consultative process. But then the other question comes, then how do you ensure that you balance the interest of diverse stakeholders in the development of policies?
That one is done right from the design. I give an example of various pieces of work we've done recently. We've worked on enhancing development in arid and semi-arid lands. This is an area where the various stakeholders might have been left behind in terms of access to amenities, access to infrastructure, and they face shocks which may not be in other parts of the country, for instance, like droughts and floods. So as an institute, we have worked on various research focusing on arid and semi-arid lands, droughts and floods, and also for persons with disabilities, we have worked on areas where we analyze on sectors that can enhance inclusion of persons with disabilities and marginalized groups. Further, we have capacity building interventions and programs on mainstreaming planning, budgeting for special interest groups who include children, women, youth, persons with disabilities, marginalized communities, among others. Through this, then, we are able to cut across the various stakeholders, both in the public, private sector, and also the non-state actors, which helps us to cut across all the stakeholders, and we include them right from the workshops we hold in the design up to the dissemination of the evidence that we generate. Every year, we also hold the Kibra Annual Regional Conference, which is the climax of the work that we produce. And this year, we are working on exploring and exploiting the potential that is in the value chains. And this is an area which is priority in the bottom-up economic transformation agenda and the medium-term plan 4. And it will help us identify which value chains do we capitalize on to ensure that everybody is included and leverage on the benefits and also the advantages that each region has and also various sectors.
Let's look, for example, and I like the fact that you're bringing in the issue of drought and food insecurity. And I want to take you back to the year 2017 when you developed policy brief, was it number 11, on drought mitigation and drought situation in Kenya. And you came up with various proposals, and some of these proposals were for the government to develop water pans, to dig boreholes, and to invest in agriculture mechanization to deal with the issues of drought, hunger, and food insecurity in Kenya. Almost 10 years down the line, why are we still talking about hunger?
First, the government, with support from stakeholders, have worked a lot in the space of food security and also nutrition security. The level of deprivation has reduced. And in the various interventions that have been put in place over time, you can confirm that with the opening up of various parts of the country through road networks and even use of ICT and support from non-stakeholders, the country has been able to enhance access to food. The main challenge we have is the external shocks, for instance, droughts when they come in. and also floods when they come in. To counter that, the government has also been investing in various programs like on irrigation and water harvesting, which is very key. As a nation, most of the people producing food are in smallholder agriculture space, which then means investment in the smallholder farmers is very, very important. And that's an area where in the various blueprints that the government has invested over time, including the current one and its medium-term plan, focus has been on production systems, because then you are able to leverage on the strengths of various regions, food crops, and ensure that there is minimal wastage, improved logistics so that food is moved from one point to another, and investing also in manufacturing for processing of food so that we are able to preserve it and use it later and improve on our food and nutrition security.
And when you look at policy absorption and policy consumption in Kenya, do you see areas where we need to improve on as a country?
The first area we need to enhance is on the continuous implementation of policies, programs, monitoring the programs, and measuring impacts, and putting in place any collective measures to ensure that what we start to implement is fully implemented and fully supported. That also requires that capacities are developed to implement the policies. And that is an area where we need more investment so that we have specialists and high technology producers as well as high technology skills developed in the entire education and training system, as well as when it comes to impact assessment, so that we are able to ensure that these policies and interventions, when they are put in place, we have adequate human capital to implement, measure the impact, and ensure that they are sustained.
You see, when you look at KIPRA, it's led and managed by technocrats and people who are qualified in the areas of research and statistics and economic development, as well as social modeling. But when you look at a country, it is governed by politicians who may not be qualified in certain areas. And so then how do you ensure that politicians accept and implement proposals of policies that you develop?
I can confirm that the Kenyan space has highly informed political class. As an institute, as we deliver on our mandate, we interact with all the arms of government, and we are able to give advisory to that extent. At the moment, most of the people holding the offices have the information, and they do seek this knowledge and evidence from existing documents, as well as engaging specialists and experts in various fields. I give you an example. As KIPRA, we have experts in all sectors of the economy because KIPRA is structured like the national and the county governments. We have experts in macroeconomics, in microeconomics, social sectors, productive sectors, infrastructure, trade, productive private sectors, among others. Which then means that when we get requests for advisories from any level of government, we are able to put together the teams to generate this evidence and share as appropriate. And the experience we've had is the uptake is high, and we are able to influence various policies and interventions.
So the uptake may be high. What about implementation?
Implementation as well.
Is there any corresponding numbers?
Implementation as well, because at the moment, a number of evaluations have been done for the various plans that we've had over the years, and the indication is improvement in our indicators, performance indicators. Most of these plans, they come up with the monitoring and evaluation framework and indicators framework. This indicators framework is what we use to measure where we were before the interventions, where we are, and what we need to do before the time frame is up. And the evidence shows upward trends, and where we have gaps, it is possible to inform the various stakeholders then on what needs to be done to improve on the implementation frameworks.
Let's, for example, take a case of county governments. They're supposed to develop what we call the county integrated development plans. And do they consult you when they are developing these documents? That is the first question. And number two, when you look at their policy development and implementation, are there gaps that you as KIPRA have flagged in the past?
There's county integrated development plans. Development is an integrated process. In the current generation of plans that the counties are implementing, yes, KIPRA was involved with other stakeholders, and this gave us an opportunity to interpret the various research evidences that we had generated at county level to these plans. We are also working closely with the counties. We have a memorandum of understanding with a number of counties, and we also work closely with the county, the Council of Governors, which then helps us not only to support the counties directly, but also support them through the existing frameworks. With that, then, I can indicate, yes, the support has been given, and the indications that we have already in the monitoring and evaluation of some of the plans, where KIPRA has participated in the evaluation of the previous plan, it was possible to see where the counties were before devolution and where they are at the moment and the areas for intervention. This could include the following. I start with the counties which have lower levels of performance, particularly where the socioeconomic development indicators are not as high as one will expect as per the targets in the Vision 2030 and also in the Sustainable Development Goals. These counties, what needs to be done there is to improve access to amenities, access to education, access to health, access to water. What has been identified as a key resource, a key input in any production process. And that links to what you asked earlier on, what do we do to open up counties where drought is a major shock. Another area of intervention is on digital space. Investing in connectivity, investing in technologies, investing in use of modern technologies. It is also evident that as a nation, we use green energy. And this green energy is an advantage that the economy has. Apparently, solar energy can be harvested from the counties where drought is a major shock. Meaning that we both have positives and negatives, even where there is low potential, which means to enhance the development of the counties that have lower development indicators, then we can take advantage of their strengths, like harvesting of water when it's raining, ensuring that floods don't cause havoc, but preparing for the same earlier, using the geographical information systems and spatial analysis tools to plan ahead, to forecast, to see what is happening and what is coming up, using the space data to ensure that no region is being left behind, both at the national and the county level. Another critical area is human capital development. That is the heart of development. Other enablers include investing in our values, national values, public values, our culture, harvesting on knowledge, harvesting on our indigenous knowledge, our natural resources, and also the attractions, which are very important for tourism. So those are the areas which have been identified and can be supported, including in investing in manufacturing, so that we are able to process our products, use them, and also export them to get foreign exchange, as well as create jobs for our local population, our youth, as well as groups that are lacking productive and engaging quality activities that can hand them a living.
And when you look at, and I want to touch on human capital and of course human development, and when you look at all the 47 counties, and when you do a research and you analyze the level of human capital, are they well capacitated to develop and implement public policies?
What I can confirm is Kenya is a great nation. If you look at the policies we have in human capital development, they are directed through the center. And that helps us reduce inequalities, ensure that when we are investing and when we are identifying programs, they are targeted. Areas where we had low access to education, for instance, there has been investment in infrastructure, and this has been made possible through programs like the National Government's Constituents Development Fund, and also counties have funds where they are able to support the areas where infrastructure is left behind, particularly in early childhood development and TVET institutions that are implemented under the county governments. Another area which has major potential is in tertiary TVET institutions. This is where investment is highly required so that we are able to enhance transitions from basic education to tertiary education. In Kenya, for instance, when you compare our indicators in human capital development and the other countries which we compare with, we need to invest more, not only in foundational learning and basic education, but in skills development. And this is why we are investing a lot in the competence-based education, as well as the competence-based education and training for tertiary institutions. As a nation, there's a lot of potential in these programs, and what then we need is to ensure that the transition between education and the labor market is strengthened such that when the youth complete education, they are able to be placed into the areas of workplace where they have been trained on and where they can contribute productively. Also taking into account the emerging sectors like digital economy. It's having great potential. The creative economy, it has great potential. These are sectors where we need to invest greatly, both in human capital and also in exploiting the potential to create jobs in those sectors for the youth.
Let's take KIPRA, for example. When you look at your staffing levels currently and your funding levels, would you say they are optimum? If no, what do we need to do so that we can make KIPRA greater?
In terms of staffing, we are at around 50%.
50%?
Yes, we are having low levels of staffing. And this is an area where we have prioritized, both as the management and also as the governance board, that's the board, to ensure that in the short term, we are able to enhance our human capital. Another area is on the specializations for this human capital. As I've indicated, we cut across all the sectors of the economy. And that's why we need economists who are able to do deep analysis in their area of specialization, be it macroeconomics, be it in economic modeling, predictive analytics, big data analysis, social sectors, health, education, population dynamics, food systems, nutrition. If it is integrated development, you need specialists in infrastructure and economic services, trade, productive sectors, climate change, environment. So with what we have at the moment, as I've indicated, we are doing at the level of average, and hence we need to enhance both in the human capital and also in financing.
Just hold it there. I mean, when your staffing levels is at 50% of what is needed, this is definitely affecting how you do your business and, of course, how you run your operations, right? How are you coping with that?
In coping with that, as an institution, what we do is we engage short-term staff, and these are staff whom we engage from time to time to counter the shortfall, and also ensuring that as we interact with the government entities, we are able to work with them closely with the limited resources we have.
Is that a sustainable model?
It is not sustainable, and that's why, as an institute, we are working towards filling these positions so that we are able to have adequate staffing. We are also in the process of mobilizing more resources so that we are able to attract high-level specialists who may not really come to work in Kipra full-time, but they are able to come, deliver on a task, advise government on a specific issue, and move on to another area. We also have frameworks where we engage the short-term staff, and this is a modality we've been using. Another area is working with universities. We already have a framework for sabbatical lecturers who can come to Kipra. They work with us, we link with universities. We have also enhanced our human capital engagement where we have research associates provision. And this has been opened up. If you go to our website, you will be able to apply and come in, work with us, link with us, share your expertise with us. We also share our expertise with you. And that way we are able to open spaces for many Kenyans, not only within the country and even globally, so that we are able to influence development not only in Kenya, but in the region and in Africa at large.
Let's now also talk about, funding, because the Exchequer is your primary funding agency, right? You get majority of your funding from the National Treasury, where you are domiciled. Is it enough?
As you will expect, research is very dynamic. And the Exchequer is one source. Currently, we rely on the Exchequer, and we also have a mandate of engaging with clients. That's how we are able to raise our appropriation in aid revenue, which then after we undertake research, which has been requested for, either through the government or private sector, they are able to pay for that service as it has been provided. As an institute which is in research, we also do a lot of proposal writing, and that's how we are able to win some grants to help us deliver not only on that particular grant, but also support other activities. We have also been able to collaborate with private sector and the mainstream government institutions, and by so doing, we are able to deliver on our mandate by giving our services, like through the task forces and technical working groups, where we are not paid, but we deliver on that mandate, and that is in-kind contribution. But going forward, we are strengthening our resource mobilization agenda. We already have a resource mobilization policy and strategy, which we are implementing, and one of the areas is the resource mobilization, ensuring that we open up to specialists in various fields who can come in to Kipra, source for grants, help us implement various programs, and also support us as we expand and deliver on our mandate, not only in Kenya, but also in the region. It is also our objective to be a major research institution in East and Central Africa, where we are looking forward to us being a center of excellence.
So you wouldn't say that funding is a challenge for KIPRA?
As I've indicated, it is a challenge, but we have to work within our means, and we are putting into place mechanisms to ensure that we remain sustainable and we ensure that we deliver within the resources that are available.
In a given year, on average, how many policy papers do you produce?
In a given year, giving an example of where we've been having 7 departments, each department is expected to produce 5 papers.
5 papers?
Yes, so we produce up to around 40 papers in a year. We also produce the Kenya Economic Report every year. We produce policy briefs, blogs, media articles. We are able to mount round tables, policy seminars, workshops, as well as the KIPRA Annual Regional Conference. So all these products are well planned for. We work with the performance contracting like any government entity. That's where we set our targets, and we are able to deliver on what we have committed to. Where we have gaps, we then have to get support when we get the engagement of short-term staff to deliver on the same.
Dr. you are the helm of leading and guiding and offering strategic leadership at KIPRA. And what should Kenyans expect of KIPRA going forward?
As a nation, we look forward to a very strong public policy research institute that is able to take into account emerging sectors, emerging potential in our economy, taking into account the needs in capacity building, investing in capacities and capabilities development, both at the national and the county level, an institution that is able to take into account emerging shocks like climate change, the role of the investments in digital economy, an institution that is able to tackle challenges we are facing like youth unemployment, ensuring that as we invest in development and production systems, an institution that is guiding in providing evidence, developing policies that help us as a nation to not only come out of poverty for areas that have been left behind, but also ensuring that we remain competitive, productive, and sustainable when it comes to development.
Very well. Thank you very much indeed, Dr. for finding time to engage with us here on Inside Government, and I can promise you that we'll keep this engagement, and of course, having you occasionally to help us understand where we are going in terms of development of public policy and research.
Thank you.
Your time is highly appreciated. Thank you very much. We've been talking to Dr. Elda Onsomu, the Executive Director at Kenya Institute for Public Policy Research and Research Analysis, and she's been helping us understand what is KIPRA doing to help Kenya be guided by our policy in each development path. And of course, you have heard it from her. My name is O'Brien Kimani. Thank you very much indeed for joining us here on Inside Government. Have a celebrable time ahead. Bye for now.
Ikibamba sana basi pull it up. Select a cheza dopa once from the top. Whoa. Dojo mabe, dojo mabe, dojo mabe. Iningi
Cheche. It's new, exciting, and fun.
Nothing speaks to the heart more than good music. We are back. Fresh, better than before.
And of course, bringing you great mixes, gossip, interviews from your favorite artists, both local and international.
With me, Kalondu Musimi, the baddest in the game. You better say my name, baby.
And of course, your boy, Mr. Vibe Brito, the DJ.